Today we're going to be learning how to draw popcorn in a popcorn tub. So I'm going to give you a tutorial on how to make that happen. If you're here in the classroom, you're going to need a set of drawing pencils like this one, as well as a blending stub like the one I have in my hand. Okay. If you're at home learning and you don't have these supplies, don't worry, just make sure you have a pencil with a good eraser on it. Okay, so for starters, we're going to draw the tub for our popcorn to go in, kind of like if you're at the movie theater. So to do that, what I'm going to do is to start out having an angled line that goes down towards the bottom of my paper. Okay, and then I'm going to do another one on the other side. Now there's no right or wrong size on how big you want your popcorn tub to be, so yours may or may not be the same size as mine, and that's okay. Then at the bottom of that tub, we're just going to connect one side to the other line with a curved line. Okay, it just kind of curves around from one side to the other. We're going to give the top of our tub kind of a rim or a lip around it. So to do that, we're just going to do the same thing, just going to kind of curve from one side over to the other. And then we're going to do a second line that comes around from that. So it just kind of points there at the edge. It's going to come across and then connects to the other side. Okay. Once you get your tub drawn, then what we're going to do is to start add some shadow and some shading to this. So one of the nice things that we can do with classroom drawing pencils is to show value. In art, value is the difference between lights and darks. So I have the same color on all of my pencils, but the value lets me do light version of that color or a dark version of that color. So I'm going to start with my 2B pencil. That's the lightest one I have in my set. Your set might have an HB. That would be a little bit lighter. So either one is fine, either a 2B or an HB. And what we're going to do is kind of start with a reflection from the light that's going to come down off to the side of our tub. So what I'm doing is making just some longer lines that go across. Those lines are actually going to start getting shorter as I go down. And I'm going to turn my paper just because when I'm drawing, sometimes drawing from a different direction is a little bit easier for me. But don't worry, I'll turn it back so you can see it in the upright position. So I'm just kind of making those lines coming down. Like I said, they're getting kind of smaller as I get closer to the bottom of the tub. But we're not going to go all the way down to the bottom, okay? So once I get those lines on there, they're just kind of wisping out. Don't want them to be like a really dark defined line. It's just supposed to look kind of like the glare from the lights or the glare from the sunshine, okay? So I've gotten those lines drawn. Now what I'm going to do is take my blending stub. Remember, if your blending stubs are dirty, you just use a piece of sandpaper and rub it on the sandpaper to clean those off, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and use my clean blending stub, and I'm just going to start rubbing over the top of those pencil lines that I drew, going in a back and forth motion. That gives my pencil marks just kind of a smooth, blended look. Very good. Okay, so now my popcorn head tub has just a little bit of a reflection there. Now I'm going to work on some shadow and shading down in the lower right corner. I'm going to start with my 2B pencil once again. If you guys feel the need, you can always turn your paper. I'm going to go ahead and do some longer lines towards the bottom of the tub, and then those lines are going to get shorter as I go up to the top. Remember, I'm using just a light pencil, a 2B. If you don't have a 2B in your set, an HB would be another option. I'm just trying to get as close to the edge of the popcorn tub as I can. And my lines are a little bit curved, not a lot, but just a little bit curved as I'm going up, longer at the bottom, shorter as I go towards the top of the tub. Okay, then I'm going to take a little bit darker pencil. This one's going to have a darker value. It's a 4B. So I'm going to use my 4B pencil. And then I'm just going to come back in and add a few darker lines here and there. I don't want them everywhere, but that will give me just a little bit of depth to my drawing. Okay, so a few of the darker ones I'm going to try to do a little bit darker down here at the bottom. And then I'm going to go back with my blending stub and blend those from the right side towards the left. Now, if for any reason you feel like you get out of the lines with your blending stub or you've made a little bit of a mess making that shadow, all you have to do is take your eraser. It can be an art eraser or it can be the one on the edge of your pencil, and you're just going to go back and clean up any of those edges where you feel like you may have gotten out of line, okay? All right, so now our tub has a reflection area, it has a shadowed shaded area. We're going to do the same thing on the other side. We want our tub to look like it has dimension, some 3 dimension to it, rather than looking flat. So I'm going to start out with my 2B pencil, and along this left-hand side, I'm just going to do curved lines that come from the side of the tub and head towards the center of the popcorn tub. And I'm going to do this from the top clear to the bottom. Now, once I have those shadowed lines curving in from the left hand toward the center, and I have them from the top to the bottom, what I'm going to do next is go in with my 4B pencil. Remember, that one has just a little bit darker value. And then I'm just going to add a few darker lines here and there, just to give it a little bit more depth. Now, these don't have to be everywhere, but like I said, it will give it a little bit more shadow look. Showing that darker value. So in a few places along that side, I'm just going to add some of that darker value. And then I'm going to go back with my blending stub and try to blend those lights and darks together so it's more unified. So I'm going to take this blending stub here. I'm going to just start from the left side working towards the center. Now, once again, with the blending, if you feel like you've made a mess or you've gotten out of the lines a little bit, it's absolutely fine to use your eraser to go back and do those cleanup areas. I'm just blending those colors together, and I have gotten out of the lines some, so I think I'll take my eraser, and then I'm just going to clean up that side a little bit. Okay. So now I have a nice popcorn tub. I want to give it a little bit of shadow so it looks like instead of floating on my paper, it kind of looks like it's sitting on something. So maybe it's sitting on a table or it's sitting on the floor. I'm just going to do just a little shadow coming out from the back side at an angle. It's just coming out from the back of the popcorn container. I'm using my 2B, by the way, for that. And then I'm going to carry that shadow over to the front just a little bit. Now, once I feel like I have the shadow in the area that I was hoping for, then what I'm going to do is take my blending stub and I'm just going to kind of go in that same direction that my lines were drawn, kind of at an angle, and I'm just blending those colors to make it look like it has a nice subtle shadow where it's sitting on some sort of a table or sitting on a surface of some sort. Okay. All right, so the next step is going to be to draw some popcorn. So to do our popcorn, we're actually going to start with a darker value pencil. This one is my 6B, okay? And I'm going to come off to the side of the popcorn tub. We're going to draw a piece of popcorn that's actually fallen out of the container and has landed on the surface. We're going to start by making kind of a backwards C shape, but my C is not going to be uniform. I don't want it to be perfectly round, so it's going to be kind of a bumpy backwards C. So I'm going to go ahead and start, and there I have my bumpy backwards C. Okay. Once I get that bumpy backwards C with my 6B pencil, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of add some curved lines where that popcorn is not uniform. It's got some bumps. It's got some different shapes and texture there. I'm just going to add some of that darker 6B. Okay. Once I've done that, then I'm going to go back to my 4B and kind of go around the same area. So I'm just doing a little bit lighter right inside of it. Okay, and not going all the way to the center of it yet. I'm leaving some white there. Then I'm going to take my 2B and I'm going to do the same, just a little bit lighter area where I'm kind of following the curves of that popcorn. Okay. Once I get that done, I'm going to take my blending stub and just start blending those colors towards the center a little bit where it's darker on the edges that gets lighter as I go towards the center of that C shape. Okay. Next step is I'm going to use my 6B. I'm going to make the next section of my popcorn, and I'm just going to kind of give it a nice curve there at the top, and another one that kind of comes down below it at the bottom. Okay. And then from there I'm going to go a little bit lighter with my 4B, bringing that value towards the center of the popcorn, and my 2B. Blending stub is next. And then I'm going to do one more section to my popcorn. So 6B pencil. Okay. This time I'm going to make kind of the part where it puffs out. Okay. So this one's going to have a rainbow shape here. I'm going to do another one that comes around in this area. Okay. I'm going to have one that curves out over here, kind of off by its side. And then over here, I'm just going to kind of connect that back. It's kind of like a wavy W, okay? And then one more over on this side, okay? On the center of my popcorn, I'm actually going to do my 8B. My 8B pencil is my darkest value that I have, okay? So in the center is where I'm going to make the part where it popped. So it's going to have some space that comes down. It's going to kind of come across into this area. There's no real right or wrong way to make this part, but this is just kind of going to be the darker part that comes across my popcorn. And then I'm going to go in with my 8B, and I'm just going to fill those in so it's extremely dark. This is going to be my darkest value on my piece. Okay, so that's the part where it popped out. From the kernel, it popped into the popcorn. So I'm going to take my 6B next. I'm just going to start gradually adding some depth to my popcorn piece. It's going from darker to lighter. So that if I go from 6 lighter, then I would go 4. This is my 4B. And finally my 2B. Now it's okay to leave some of that white because your popcorn is going to have a lot of white to it, okay? Then come back with my blending stub, and I'm just going to kind of start blending those colors together. I do feel like I need just a little bit more of that 8B so it doesn't look like I have a distinct line over there. Just going to kind of bring that in a little. And then I'm going to use that blending stub just to kind of start mixing those colors into the center. And once again, it's okay if some of the white still shows. And there I have a couple pieces, it looks like kind of a couple pieces of popcorn have fallen out of the tub. Okay, so now that we know how to make popcorn, we're going to fill up the top of the tub with popcorn as well. Okay, I've already started to do that on this sample. You can see where I have popcorn at the bottom, and now I'm filling in with popcorn at the top. So I'm going to show you how to make a few of those up here, and then I'm going to let you get started filling in the rest of yours. So I'm going to start out with my 6B pencil, kind of like we did down here for these. Okay, and I'm going to start over on my far left side, and I'm just going to work my way across to fill the tub. So once again, it's about making kind of a series of C shapes or rainbow shapes, if that's what you want to call them. They don't all have to be the same size. In the center of that, I'm going to do the darker space with my 8B. This is kind of the part where it shows that the popcorn hole has popped, or the popcorn kernel has popped. Okay, and then I'm going to come back with my 4B. I'm just going to kind of lighten up those edges around the sides of the popcorn. And my 2B as well. Working that towards the center. And then maybe a little bit over here. And then my blending stub will help me blend that piece together. So there's one piece of popcorn. I'm ready to do another one. Starting with my 6B. This one's going to come down in the front just a little bit. Now, not all of them are going to have where the whole part shows or the popped part shows. So this one kind of did, but this one right here doesn't necessarily show any of that. So this one's just going to be kind of a poofy or puffy piece of popcorn. It's going to have some edging to it here. I'm going to go ahead and draw those around. It's okay for it to kind of overlap the popcorn container a little bit. This time I'm going to come back in with my 4B just to add a little bit of depth. I'm just kind of making C shapes or rainbow shapes when I'm drawing. And then do a little bit lighter with my 2B before I blend it with my blending stub. Alright, so I'm going to come back in with my blending stub and just kind of mix those colors towards the center. Okay. Now, I'm going to do one kind of up on top of those. So this will be my next piece. It'll kind of come out over here. And I'm going to do another one that comes around. Okay. With my 6B, that one was my 6B. So then with my 8B, I apologize, this will be my darkest one. I'm going to add just a little bit of that popped hole part in the center. Okay, that's really the dark part. I'm going to come back in with my 4B, add a little bit of shadow, and then the same thing with my 2B. 2B is going to be my lighter value, and then blending with my blending stub. Okay, now you're going to see some gap in between the pieces of popcorn that are popped. So right in here there's a little bit of a gap where the white shows through. I'm going to come back in with my 8B pencil and I'm just going to color in those gaps with my black so it looks like it's kind of in the background or it's been shadowed. Okay, so just filling those in. So the next step you're going to do is to continue to draw those popcorn kernels all the way across to fill up the top of your popcorn tub. Okay, once you get all of your popcorn drawn to fill the top of your popcorn tub, then that's when you can go back and start adding your own personal details. So maybe you want your popcorn container to have stripes on it. Maybe you want your popcorn container to say the word popcorn on the front. So those would be the details that you could start adding. Maybe you want to do a little bit darker edges around your container once you have your popcorn done. So if you wanted to come back in with your 8B pencil and kind of go around those edges just a little bit to darken them up, that's something that you can do. So I'm just going to kind of give it a little bit more of a bold edge over here on the side just because my popcorn is so much more bold. So that's something that you can do. Just follow those lines that you had started earlier and just kind of darken it up just a little bit so you have more of that depth and shadow over there. So that's kind of what I'm doing with mine right now, is just kind of making that border a little bit more bold or that edge a little bit more bold. When you do that, then you can come back in with your blending stub and just kind of continue that blending towards the center of your popcorn container. So like I said, that's just if you feel like you need to. If it wasn't dark enough from the first time that you went through it, that's something that you can go back in and add for a little bit more detail. But if you do that, you'll want to make sure that you work that value, that darker value, all the way down towards the bottom of your container. Then once you feel like you've done everything that you need to do to finish your tub, added the details that you want to make it your own, then you are ready to complete your picture by signing it like an artist. Okay, so when we sign our artwork, we always sign in the lower right corner. So that's my next step. I feel like I've gotten my popcorn container where I want it to be. So I'm going to go ahead and take my pencil. I'm going to use a bold one for mine, so I'm going to use that 8B, and then just down here in the lower right corner, I'm going to sign my name, okay? So I always sign with my initials, so that's why mine is signed in that way. So when yours is complete, make sure that you turn it in for a grade. We want to make sure you submit it because this will be graded as one of your projects. So I hope you enjoyed learning how to use those blending pencils and learning how the different values work with the lights and the darks.